Hello everyone and welcome to my first ever art process video with a voiceover. So I thought I would share some of my tips and workflows in this one to perhaps help some of you out because you may also want to do something like this with your own characters. By the way, I would just love to say that I'm so excited for the new Guild Wars expansion, and this is basically inspired by the new Necromancer spec. If you watched the stream, you may have noticed that they gave us a sneak peek of Necromancer wielding a pistol main hand, which I thought was super spicy, so I felt like I had to do a screenshot edit with this new spec. So let's get into this. In the beginning, I always cut out the characters because I usually want to put them into a new environment and build a scene basically from scratch. And I recommend you doing these screenshots in areas where there is not a lot of visual noise, which means that the cleaner you have the background, the easier is the process of masking the characters out. So once I finished that, I started building up the environment. I made some photos from maps such as Gendarin Fields from Wing 5, where we fight Doom, and some screenshots from Grotmer Valley as well. I really just wanted to capture the dark feeling, that dark atmosphere that all parts of these maps have, because we are working with necromancers, right? And usually I only have a very rough idea of what I want to create, but in this one I had a quite clear vision of what I want the picture to look like. I was imagining the necromancers in quite a dynamic positions and with some either mansion or castle or some creepy forest behind them. Then of course I was thinking about some moonlight and some green flames, because cold tones, cold colors such as greens and blues are usually mostly related to necromancers, so these were the colors that I chose. I also decided to retake some of the screenshots because I wasn't either very happy with the first fashion choices that I've made, or the angle that the character was taken in was just not correct. So that's what I'm doing right now. I also prefer to cut the characters out with the brush tool rather than with the lasso tool, simply because I find that it's more precise with the details and actually less punishing. Whereas when you are working with lasso tool and you accidentally click and close the shape too soon, the lines merge and you would have to do a lot of corrections afterwards. So I think lasso tool is great when there is a lot of straight lines, but if you're cutting out some details such as cloth in the wind or hair or hands really like curved lines or something, then I think that it's definitely so much better and more practical to use the brush tool. I also often use textures and various layers from my previous artworks to save some time, but also in a case when I don't really know the original location of the picture. Fun fact, because we don't have Necromancer with a pistol in the game yet, I had to create this with characters that were wielding pistol main hand. So these are actually two of my engineers and my thief. And for the skills I was only using auto attack and skill 2 on the NG. It also felt very fitting to use at least one of the minions. Originally I was planning to use like 2 or maybe even 3 minions, but the longer I actually worked on this, the more I liked the artwork the way it was, because it felt more simplistic and the characters popped out, which was good. Also, I found some screenshots from the dungeon Ra, and I thought I could make this sort of shattered glass globe around the whole area, but in the end I really just liked it better when the space was more open and the background took way less attention. And in the background environment, there was originally a castle, but I decided to exchange that with a statue of Grant from Raid Wing 5. Although I like the castle, Grant's statue was definitely way more fitting for this concept. Now I have the base, and I wanted to see what colors would be suitable for the picture. What I usually really like to do is that I create an adjustment layer, then I apply gradient on the adjustment layer, and I set a blending to either screen or overlay, and I try out different gradients to kind of see like what color combos would look nice. And so right now I haven't paid much attention to that, and I decided to return back to the basics, which were the shadows. I really hate doing shadows, to be honest, but it has to be done and it has to look the best possible, because wrong shadows are very visible and it can ruin the picture. So I took my time on that and tried to make it look good. It's very repetitive, but it really has to look right. Then obviously the hair of my teeth wasn't matching the light in the area, so I shaded that a bit too. Also, I think it's worth mentioning that always convert your base layers you are actively editing into smart objects. This way you will not lose quality, especially if you are transforming the layer a lot. So after I graded the characters a bit, I could start working on the details. I had this vision of my small Asura NG having a green eye that would really just pop out in the middle of the composition. So I was working on that, and then I added some flames to her pistol, which I was mentioning before. I was using the smudge tool a lot with these effects to create those Necro flames. And when I finished that, I decided to create a shroud-inspired flame aura around my Silvari character, which created more diversity and accentuated the necromancer vibes. Then here on the blonde guy, I used an effect which I actually love to use very often in my projects. It's called Displace, and it creates this really interesting scatter look of the picture. I use it a lot on my Mirage project as well, but you need to have a good texture, so it creates an effect like this. This effect also made it easier for me to smudge it out and create more of the green flames. I really like that each character has their own sort of aura or a stage of shroud. I also noticed that the light on the Asura's face wasn't correct, so I had to make it look better. What I've basically done is that I just made the left side of her face lighter, so the backlight would be more visible. I also changed the seemingly source of light on her nose and moved it more to the left. And yeah, then I just made some shadow corrections so everything looks more natural, and really just made the light work in the picture so that it actually feels like it's touching the characters directly, their hair, their clothes, and their faces. After the characters were mostly done, I returned to the environment setting and I used cloud texture from my project Ascent and used the gradient map to make it green and poisonous-like. I made a moon shinier, added some texture and fixed the shadows on the ground. I added the minion with some more details to finish things up to the end, and I added some sparks from flames coming out of the characters because I felt like that would be more dynamic. And of course I had to add light leaks. I really love light leaks, but I didn't really find that they would fit in this picture, so I removed them. As you can see here, the light on the blonde guy's face is very direct and coming from the front, so I had to show that he just fired from the pistol, so the light makes sense, like just put something in front of him. And yes, I was actually considering leaving the grand form on the photo. Luckily it didn't make it. Then I made some final touches and post-processing, and yeah, that was done. Hope you enjoyed.